Buenas tardes. Bienvenue à tous et à toutes. Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Gagnon, and I'm joining you today from Montreal, from the Secretariat of the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. Our offices are located on the unceded traditional territory of the Kenyake Haka, also known as the Moja Nation. At the CEC, we recognize and respect Indigenous peoples as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters, and we are committed to working in partnerships with them to protect the environment across what we may refer to as Turtle Island or North America. As each of us is joining from different locations, we invite you to take a moment to reflect and honor the First Nations on whose territories you are situated. Je suis ravie de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à ce webinaire organisé par la Commission de coopération environnementale et intitulé « Ce que doivent savoir les entreprises, une économie circulaire pour un avenir durable en Amérique du Nord ». Este seminario web es el primero de tres en el marco de una serie titulada Lo que las empresas necesitan saber, en la que se destacarán temas claves
What
para el
the
sector
company
privado,
need to know,
que forma parte de
and
los
that it's
esfuerzos de
part
la
of the
Comisión
efforts of
por
the Commission
fortalecer una
to strengthen
colaboración con
our
empresas de
collaboration
industrias de
with
Canadá, Estados
industries
Unidos y
from
México.
Canada, United States, and Mexico.
Tengo el gusto de presentarles
It
a
is my
Marcela
pleasure to
Orozco, responsable de
introduce
la Dirección
Marcela
de Grupos
Orozco,
Consultivos y
Director of
Participación Pública,
Grupos
quien nos
Consultivos and
hablará un
Public
poco del
Participation,
trabajo que la Comisión
who
para la
will talk a
Cooperación
little bit
Ambiental
about
realiza.
the work of the
Bienvenida,
CEC.
Marcela.
Welcome, Marcela.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Since the creation of the CEC a little over 30 years ago, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation has always worked very closely with the private sector on various initiatives and projects, which have been priorities for the three countries. Initially, the CEC focused much of its efforts on analyzing the links between trade and the environment in response to concerns that NAFTA would lead to the weakening of environmental laws and their lax enforcement in order to attract investment and gain trade advantages. Through NAFTA and what was known as the North American Agreement of Environmental Cooperation in 1994, and currently through the CUSMA, USMCA, TEMEC, as it is known in the three countries, Canada, Mexico, and the United States made a commitment under the new Environmental Cooperation Agreement known as the ECA to cooperate and promote sustainable development in North America and to achieve high levels of environmental protection and the effective enforcement of environmental laws in each country. The CEC has three constituent bodies: the Council, composed of the highest level environmental authorities, including cabinet level or equivalent, from Canada, Mexico, and the United States; the Secretariat, which is located, as Sam just mentioned, in Montreal, Canada, and is headed by an executive director, and whose activities are carried out by professional staff from the three countries; and the JPAC, composed of 9 citizens, 3 from each country, who provide advice to the Council on a wide array of environmental issues within the scope of the Agreement for Environmental Cooperation. Como mencioné al inicio de mi intervención, la CCA lleva una larga trayectoria
As I
colaborando con
mentioned
el
at the
sector
beginning,
privado.
we have been
Y,
collaborating with the private sector, and
empezamos a
recently
implementar
we
la
started to
estrategia
implement the
para
strategy
trabajar más de cerca
to
con el sector
work
privado. Y se
closely
preguntarán
with the
ustedes,
private sector.
¿para
And you
qué la
might
necesidad,
ask
no? Si ya
yourself
tiene una
why the
larga
need
trayectoria
if
de
we
trabajar con
already have a
empresas.
long trajectory of
Es
working
sencillo,
with
los
industry.
desafíos mundiales,
The
regionales y
world
locales en materia de
challenges,
medio ambiente y
local
desarrollo
and
sustentable
world
son
and
inmensos y de
national,
carácter
are very big and
multidimensional. Para hacerles
multidimensional in
frente, se
character.
requiere del
To
trabajo
face them,
colectivo
we
y de
need
acciones
collective
concretas,
work and concrete
audaces
actions
y decisivas
and
por parte de
decisive
personas,
decisions
entidades,
by
incluidos
people,
gobiernos,
entities, including
ONGs,
the
instituciones
governments, NGOs,
académicas, la sociedad
academia,
civil
and the civil
y, por supuesto,
association,
el sector privado.
the civil society,
La industria y
and
empresas
the
locales
private
son parte
sector.
esencial del tejido social
Private
y
and
económico de la
public
sociedad. Operan en
industry is
comunidades en
part
todo el
of the communities
subcontinente y
that work
representan
in all
una
the
fuente de
continent
sustento
and
para la ciudadanía.
represent sustainability
El
for the
sector privado
community.
goza de
The
una
private
posición
sector
única para
has
actuar
a
frente a
unique
determinados problemas,
situation
ya sea
to
reduciendo emisiones de
approach
gases de efecto
different
invernadero,
issues
el
like
consumo de
greenhouse
recursos
gases,
relacionados
the use of products or the search for solutions, innovative solutions that help to mitigate environmental risks. In the private sector, after innovation, experience, and financial resources that could be taken for the solutions that we desire in the CEC.
Now has the opportunity to reconsider and reorient its relationship with the private sector and to explore new avenues for dialogue and collaboration. The strategy we have developed is an important step for the Commission to seize new partnership opportunities with businesses across the three countries and to examine the benefits of finding new and innovative ways to enhance collaboration, which will ultimately lead to the best outcomes for key actors and communities across North America. You will hear in a moment from my colleague Antonia Andújar, who will talk about our important work under circular economy, which is being led by our Sustainable Living and Economies Unit here at the CEC Secretariat. But I would like to invite all of you to visit our website and take a look at all of our projects and initiatives. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to the presentations by our invited speakers, as well as our dialogue on this important topic. Sam, I'll turn the floor to you.
Merci Marcella, merci de nous avoir donné ces contextes qui nous permettent de mieux comprendre l'origine de cette série de webinaires. Le webinaire d'aujourd'hui sera l'occasion de découvrir les fondements et les principes de base de l'économie circulaire.
Today's webinar is going to allow us to see the basis of circular economy. We have ideas to work in circular economy today. The first one is going to be presented by the representatives of private sector. The second issue is related to the work being carried out by the Commission. Marcela already mentioned this before, and our colleague Antonia will present all the work being carried out by the organization. And this year, the Council, which gathers the leaders from the United States, Mexico, and Canada, will talk about circular economy and the solutions that we have in North America. So we said that this was the perfect time to open the dialogue with this webinar. You can consult the information in the session of the Council and the public forum of the JPEG. You can find the links in the chat. And to talk more about the work of the Commission regarding circular economy, I welcome Antonia, who is in charge of the project in the Center of Circular Economy, and who will be talking about this work that she has been carried up to now. Antonia, welcome. Thank you very much, Sam.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for being with us today. My name is Antonia Andújar, and I am a team member of the Sustainable Living and Economies Unit, as Samantha has explained. And I'd like just to introduce you into the world of circular economy as we've been working on for the last few years. So step by step, the CEC has been introducing the principles of circular economy in our work through our strategic plans that establish the priorities we focus on during this period. For example, I will share my screen to show you.
En el centro.
So here we go. So in the strategic plan 2015-2020, the basis for the work in this field is set under the green growth pillar. What does it mean? It means that, sorry, it doesn't work properly. Yeah, it means that we establish different priorities, but I'd like to highlight in particular the mandate to explore alternatives for addressing waste reduction and recycling and develop information and tools in support of sustainable consumption and production. Why this? Because this has led to our extensive work on prevention and reduction of food loss and waste, on how food systems can be circular, and also on our approach to waste management related projects. And then in our strategic plan 2021-2025, we already present circular economy and sustainable management, materials management as a pillar of our work, and is an individual pillar. So we give a lot of importance to this subject, and we offer a framework to go beyond what had already been done. How this is reflected? This is reflected according to the priorities under this pillar, and specifically, we read here that the work now is an extension of the previous work on green growth, and we will be exploring opportunities to encourage circular economy and a broader sustainable materials management strategies. How has it been translated into the project? So we try to respond to these challenges and seize these opportunities, and we've been designing various projects and initiatives that currently support that those different aspects of circular economy. Here you see in this nice kind of pink color, the projects that are currently ongoing and that link to circular economy. So we have projects on recycling, we have projects on the supply chain transparency, short-lived climate pollutants, food loss and waste, ghost gear, sustainable transport, etc. And to give you a quick idea of a selection of them, I have chosen these specific ones. This one is on food loss and waste. This is stimulating behavior change to be part of more circular food systems. This one is on circularity on electronics. We focus on mobile phones. This one is transparency in the supply chain. We make sure that the governments and industry can identify and prevent the entry or re-entry in the economy of products containing chemical substances that can have a negative health impact. Also, we have this project on recycling, and we focus on plastics, bioplastics, and paper waste streams. And finally, this one, which looks at materials that try to raise awareness at household level regarding any kind of large-scale event. And it's, again, on food loss and waste. That's one of the priorities. So this is really, in a nutshell, what we are doing in circular economy. As you've seen, it's a cross-cutting issue in several projects. So we are very happy of having this webinar organized by Samantha Marcela today, and I'm eager to listen to the discussions and the outcomes of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Antonia, por la presentación de los
Thank you very much, Antonia, for presenting the projects in this commission. Now that you know us better, we would like to know more about you. For that, we invite you to answer our first survey of this webinar. You will find in Slido the question, there's on the screen also. We would like to know, where are you from today? I'm going to leave it here for a couple of seconds so that you can answer. And I would like to tell you that during the webinar, we will have different surveys in which you will be able to participate. And we will also have a session of questions and answers. So we invite you to share your questions through the space for questions and answers. And you will find on the lower part an icon,
una caja de diálogo
which is a
con un signo de
dialog
interrogación en
box
medio.
with
Cuando
a
ahí
question
dan
mark
clic,
in the middle. And
es
when you click
el
there,
lugar donde pueden enviar
there
sus,
you can send
sus preguntas
your
para la sesión de
questions
preguntas y respuestas.
for the session
También
of
aprovecho para
questions and answers.
mencionar que no
I would
vamos a
also like
estar
to mention
respondiendo a
that we
preguntas
will not answer
vía el
questions
chat porque
uh,
contamos con
via
este
chat
espacio. Entonces,
because
por
we
favor,
have
si
this
tienen
space.
alguna pregunta,
So if you have any
compártanlo
questions,
a
please share
través
it
de este espacio y no
through
vía
this space,
chat.
through Slido, and not through the
Bueno,
chat.
mientras tanto, veo que está
Meanwhile,
aumentando el número
I
de
see that
respuestas
the number of answers is
nuestra
increasing
pregunta, de dónde nos
to
acompañan.
our questions,
Por cuestiones de
where you
tiempo,
are
voy a
from.
terminar el
Because
poll
of
ya,
time,
pero creo que
I'm
bueno,
going to finish the poll
tenemos
right
una
now,
gran parte
but we have
de
the
las personas que
majority of the
participan hoy que
people
nos
who are
acompañan de
participating today
México. También
are
tenemos
from
muchas
Mexico.
personas de Canadá
We also
y
have a
de
lot of
Estados
people from
Unidos
Canada
y
and the
de
United
otros
States
países.
and
Muchas
from other
gracias a todas y
countries.
a todos,
Thank you
todes,
very
por
much
participar el día de hoy.
to everybody for
Podemos
participating
concluir
today,
esta
and
encuesta
we can finish
y
this survey.
aprovecho
And I would like
inmediatamente
to
para
tell you
invitarles a
immediately
responder a la siguiente
to
encuesta,
answer
la cual
the
estará abierta
the
durante
next
las
survey,
presentaciones de los
and it will be
panelistas, así
open
que
during
tomen
the
su tiempo
presentation of the
para
panelists.
responder.
Take your time to answer,
Voy a leerles la pregunta.
and I will
Where
read
is the
the
biggest
question.
opportunity for your business or sector to apply circular economy principles? Con estas respuestas vamos a producir un word cloud. Entonces, mientras están
So
escuchando
while
las
you are
presentaciones de los
listening to the
panelistas, no
presentation
duden en
from the
responder a
panelists,
medida que las
please
ideas
answer
vienen
as
a
the
ustedes.
ideas come to your mind.
Sí, podemos ahora. Sí, eso. Gracias, ¿me entendieron?
Thank you.
Well, the moment has finally come to introduce our panelists and begin the presentations. We are delighted to welcome our three panelists, and I invite them to activate their cameras so our participants can see you. So I'm going to introduce the three of them. We have Joanne Sangodar, Executive Director of the Circular Innovation Council from Canada. Joanne has over 20 years of experience in the areas of public policy design, corporate strategy and compliance, research, and pilot innovations designed to accelerate Canada's transition towards a circular economy. She will be presenting the definitions and principles of circular economy. Thank you so much for being with us, Joanne. Welcome. Next, we have Marisol Guerrero, Director of the Sistema de Economía Circular de Querétaro and Coordinator and Sustainability of the Sustainability Committee of the Automotive Cluster of Querétaro. Marisol brings over 30 years of professional experience in environmental affairs, having held positions in both the public and private sectors in Mexico. Today, she will share with us what circularity looks like in practice, in real life, through concrete real-life examples. Gracias por estar con nosotros, Marisol. Bienvenida.
Thank you very much for joining us, Marisol, and welcome. Please open your video to let the people see you.
We also have with us Bethany Edwards, Manager of Circular Products and Materials for the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, whose work focuses on enabling a cross-industry collaboration to unlock the circular potential of materials and brings a lot of experience in this topic too. Bethany will share her experience and talk to us about the benefits and opportunities that the circular economy brings to businesses of all sizes. As I mentioned before, following the presentations, we will have a section for questions and answers. So please direct your questions to the questions and answer box. And please note that questions will not be answered in the chat. I think we're ready to go. So Joanne, I give you the floor and let me share your the screen with your presentation.
Thank you for that, Samantha. And thank you so much to the entire team at CEC for first hosting this webinar and including myself as part of this exciting panel. I really appreciate the opportunity. We only have a short time, so I'm going to try to, as was mentioned, provide a very high level description of the circular economy and the areas in business in particular that my organization is trying to advance in a Canadian context, and we're very well positioned in a now growing global community of circular economy experts and practitioners. So it's exciting to be here with my colleagues from the United States and Mexico as well, and see such a diverse and rich registration for the event itself. So, in short, circular economy really means good business, and I'm going to talk a little bit about in my presentation today why. And I would say why, especially in the context of what's happening today with so many things that are uncertain in our economy. But maybe I can start by telling you a little bit about who we are. If you could advance the slide, please, that would be fantastic. We're a non-for-profit organization that became newly national in 2020. And we came for many years in working in the recycling and waste reduction sphere. And what that really meant was developing effective policies, both in terms of management and prevention, as well as really creating programs to talk about waste and the benefits of reducing waste. And so we had a long history of policy and advocacy as it relates to that. So it was a very good foundation from which to then to think and to act further up the production and the supply chain, thinking about how we make products, how long those products are used in the marketplace, if they are optimized, and then of course what happens to them at end of life. So we even though the Circular Innovation Council is new in terms of its brand, it's been around for an organization for quite some time. And so our three pillars of activities are really around, again, designing and policies and advocating for those policies, developing resources and services and tools in the marketplace to allow the public and the private sector to better understand the benefits of the activities and the concepts we're advocating for, and most importantly, how to implement them. And those implementations really come from some of the programs that we design as well. And most notably in the last couple of years, the market pilot transitions, where we bring the public sector and the private sector together to identify how the market may be failing circularity and really acts in a linear way. And then what are the kinds of things we need to apply? What are the partnerships we have to create? What are the policies we need to intervene? And how do we help shape a market or reshape it, pardon me, to really deliver on circularity? So this is really what we do as an organization. We are non-for-profit and independent, but we work very, very closely with both sectors. Next slide, please. So similar to the sort of trajectory of the CEC, our organization really worked to move towards the linear economy to the recycling economy. And so this was about repurposing end-of-life discards or materials and products, and had a touch point into designs, but it was really looking at a sector. It wasn't looking at a system. And so where we see the economy now has moved quite successfully in some regards from a linear to a recycling economy, but now the new frontier is moving it from a recycling economy to a circular one, where you look at those production and consumption cycles more broadly, and where you think of the market as a system and trying to intersect different behaviors, different knowledge, different innovations at each parts of the supply chain in not only to reduce or eliminate waste, but actually to optimize materials and products as well. Next slide. So these are a couple of important statistics at a very broad level, assertions and quantifications that have been made to help us understand that a circular economy really bears a lot of economic opportunity, a lot of money to be made, and I would say profits and economies that can be strengthened, but with new designs. And so one of the key statistics that came out very early on was by Accenture, who notated estimated that the transitioning to a circular economy could actually generate an equivalency of 25 million or trillion dollars, US dollars, in terms of an economic output if we were to embrace it and expand it by 2050. And the World Economic Forum, a statement made that circular economy business models actually gain greater competitive edges because they create more value from each unit of resource when compared to linear take, make, and waste dispose model. So these are very broad and sweeping assertions that this is not about necessarily thinking about environment separate apart from economic growth, that in fact it's necessary and opportunistic to think about an economy that can deliver on prosperity, social gain for people, as well as environmental gains simultaneously. Next slide. So why a circular economy matters to business, certainly beyond environmental objectives. We know that the circular economy strategy is really about advancing resiliency and long-term value creation. And that's really important as we see supply chain disruptions. We see now looking internally to grow domestic economies as trade negotiations and trade rules change. We are looking for different types of relationships. We are actually, even in Canada, where we're a resource-based economy, we want to protect those resources and elongate their value as much as possible. And so to look at urban mining, to look at optimization of materials, it's a really important economic design that helps us really build resiliency. And so by design, the circular economy invokes innovation, not only as it relates to new types of business models. We see it in platform sharing, where different entities are sharing one product. We're seeing it as a service, where in fact buyers don't own assets, but in fact are getting access to the value of those assets through or products through as a service business models as well. And then we're seeing some really interesting partnerships and relationships being formed within the private sector, and certainly between public and private sector entities as well. We know that it can improve productivity because by nature it's looking to eliminate waste within the systems, and that of course lends itself to operational efficiencies. It builds supply chain stability by reducing reliance on what would otherwise be volatile material inputs, or maybe even partnerships that are not built on stability as well. And so it's really important as we think about our business partners, how do we build that certainty, which is really critical for business as well. And then reducing costs of inputs and wastes. And of course, that's talking about and focusing on materiality, but that also has a direct connectivity to reducing carbon emissions, embodied carbon. Again, makes that loop right back to optimization of products and the materials that are inherent to them. Certainly, we're seeing in a world where there's increasing expectations that businesses work and deliver in a green economy, this idea of enhancing your brand and to build loyal customers and attract investors to a business that really is environmentally responsible as well, and thinking about those circular innovations. And then, of course, anticipatory and getting ahead of, if you can, regulatory trends to avoid those risks and costs when you are a laggard in that regard, or whether you are really relying on policy changes to change your business design or product designs. So these are all really 7 important areas that really prove out that circularity within businesses really is an advantage. Next slide, please. So I just want to take 2 slides here in particular because it's really important in the Canadian context. The magnitude of businesses really in our country in particular that make up the small to medium-sized enterprises in our private sector, almost 1.29 million of them in Canada, which represent about half of our GDP. They employ over 85% of our public labor force, and in fact, almost 3/4 of small business owners, they themselves understand and acknowledge when surveyed that building a business that respects and protects the environment is important and can actually can coexist simultaneously and successfully as well. So when we think about supporting the private sector and businesses in Canada, we must build tools, resources for that sector and understand their diversity, their size, and of course, in fact, that their sometimes lack of capacity to be able to understand where these circular opportunities might be. So, and it's important to notate here that SMEs represent almost half of our country's total GHG emission outputs. And so often when we think about it, reducing or curbing carbon emissions, we think big business. But in fact, collectively, the SMEs in Canada represent the other half. And much of that is really embedded in the products and the services that they deliver as well. So circularity attacks that head on. Next slide. To continue on the spirit of SMEs, I talked about the lack of capacity. And so as we're building tools, resources, and programs, such as those that have come out of the CEC and those that the Circular Innovation Council are building, we really need to support more than ever the SME community because they are, many of them are looking at purpose-driven business models and products and really want to do their part. And so recognizing or acknowledging that they might lack resources or the knowledge, they may not know where to even find the information, they may have financial constraints or really not enough practical expertise. It's incumbent upon organizations like us and others, especially those that are financing them and supporting them, that we create circular resources and tools that are very practical for them and make them easy to adapt to and to get access to. And that includes things like green skill sets and training programs for their workforce as well. So recognizing that very few resources are out there for SMEs to grasp circularity, to understand its breadth and its scope, and to get access for practical tools and information that they can then impart in their own businesses or within their own supply chains. It's part of what we're doing as an organization, creating tool hubs that we're going to be working on in the next couple of years for this sector in particular. Next slide. And we also must recognize that, in fact, part of what we see in building circularity within supply chains is actually one of the tactics is to shorten them, to find resources and partners that are really in our own backyards. And that really directly creates an opportunity to build local circular economy. So this is really about local jobs, local businesses, local opportunities, which of course grows your local GDP. So collectively, there's a complete and direct match between circular economy practices and concepts and local economic development objectives as well. So often they're not talked about in unison, but I think ever more as we think to grow our local GDP and really build business resiliency and de-risk some of what might come with longer supply chains and maybe international type partnerships, we really use this as a tactic, if you will, to address local economic development opportunities as well. Next slide. And so just leaving you with a couple of calls to action. If you are a business owner, if you work with a business, small or large, there's a few things that you can get acting on immediately. Starting small is really important. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. There's so many different things that you can think about in terms of integrating circularity within your business, your organization, or the products that you're designing, or within your supply chain. But we're asking you to think about just starting small. Pick one thing, one area in your operations where circular principles can be applied, whether it's in your packaging, the product itself, improving waste separation in your operations, or thinking about internalizing the responsibility of your product as it leaves your manufacturing plant. Of course, the relationship with your suppliers as well, or even opening yourselves up to taking back products that you sell in order to innovate around integrating their materials back into the design of your products or your systems. So there are some actionable items that you can act on immediately. Certainly, supply chains and collaboration between suppliers and partners is critical, and even competitors. We work in our pilot projects where we might have otherwise fierce competitors come together and to work on systems where they aren't interested in competing, so that we can they can test circular systems within their supply chains, within their packaging offerings, etc. And the other thing that we can't stress enough is using your own procurement, your own buying powers to request and demand, if you will, circular requirements from your supply chains and your partners as well. And then it really starts with thinking about circularity, understanding its concepts, unlocking its innovations, and really thinking about building that culture within your businesses, tapping into to those that work with you, and offering up learning opportunities for those that work in your organization as well. And then opening yourselves to community. So working with organizations like ours, of course, the CEC as well, belonging to and providing opportunities, platforms for you to share ideas around circular practices and integration into your businesses as well. There's a lot of activities. We just came off a summit in Canada and Montreal last spring, where we saw over 1,000 businesses and the public sector come together to innovate around circularity. So it's alive and well, and so there's a lot of sharing that can be had. So there's some call outs. Next slide is just my contact information. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I look forward to your questions, and please do feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Joanne. We're really happy that you accepted our invitation. So thank you for this great presentation. You don't only explain the principles of circular economy, but you also give us information about the Canadian context. And that's great, because as our other participants are from Mexico and the United States, we will be able to have this trinational perspective. And also you highlighted the role of SMEs, that SMEs have a role on circular economy. And I think that it's something very important to highlight, because sometimes they don't feel included, or they don't feel that this is for SMEs. And you also mentioned the importance of private and public and private partnerships. And I think that is the perfect connection to welcome our next speaker, Marisol Guerrero, a quien me gustaría dar la palabra para que nos hable de la experiencia, de su experiencia justamente
I would
en
like Marisol to
el
talk about
estado de
her
Querétaro,
experience in the
y
state
que
of
está en
Querétaro,
relación
and
con
which is in
estas
relation
alianzas
to these
público-privadas y cómo
private-public
proyectos
alliances,
así pueden
and
después
as well as
volverse
projects
toda una
can
iniciativa de
become a
desarrollo a
complete
nivel local.
development initiative
Bienvenida,
at a local
Marisol.
level. Welcome, Marisol.
Hola Samantha, hola a todos. Buenas
Hello,
tardes. Muchas
Samantha.
gracias
Hi
por
to
esta
everybody.
invitación
Thank you very much
que
for
nos
this
están haciendo
invitation
para
that
compartir con
you are
ustedes
making us to
lo
share
que
with
estamos
you
haciendo en Querétaro.
what we are doing in Querétaro.
¿Ya ven por ahí mi pantalla?
Can you see my screen?
Sí, perfecto.
Ok. Bueno, pues vamos a iniciar.
Okay, so I
Primero
will start.
en el contexto para
First,
poner
in the
dónde se
context
encuentra Querétaro.
of
Querétaro está al centro
telling you where Querétaro is.
del país
Querétaro
México,
is at the
donde
center of
vemos que la
Mexico.
actividad
We see
económica
that
que
the
ha
economic
representado
activity
Querétaro en los
that
últimos años
Querétaro
ha
has in
sido una
recent years
transacción de diversos
has been
sectores
a transaction
industriales.
of different
Vemos
industrial
aquí la
sectors.
principal
Here we
contribución
see
del
the
Producto Interno
main
Bruto
contribution
es del
of
sector
the gross
terciario,
product,
comercios y
national
servicios
product
que se han
is
derivado
like these
justo de esta
services that have
atracción de
derived from
inversiones
these
en
investments
sectores
from the
textiles,
textile
automotriz,
sector,
aeroespacial
automotive,
y en los últimos
aerospatial,
años
and in recent
de centros
years,
de desarrollo de datos.
data development centers. Part of this economic attraction that has characterized Querétaro, we also see the situation that it implies more resources, the use of more resources in different regions, resources like water, raw materials, products, that it activates what we started visualizing in 2021 as a need of looking for alternatives in different sectors that were using the resources. Joanne mentioned the circular economy, how to change this paradigm to a linear economy to a circular economy. We started with automotive industry. We create alliances with different sectors through the government, academia, society, and other business centers. This circular economy began because the government, the state government, contributed the economic resources to develop capacities in the different sections of the country. The current state administration has a public policy that implements the state development program, where it mentions that we have to have a dynamic economy to continue generating employment, but protecting the natural resources. And with these two strategies that we have from the state government, it mentions the circular economy. It starts with the introduction to circular economy. Why was this system created? Because all of us are part of the economic activity in Querétaro, and the main objective of the system is to capacity building at an institutional level and business level in order to develop or create initiatives in circular economy in order to improve competitiveness. We just heard that this has been proposed as an opportunity for economic benefit, and this is something that we have found, and in some cases we applied this in Querétaro, applying the principles of the circular economy, how to eliminate waste and contamination, how from the design of the products we can make them circular. They explain that recycling is one of the tools for circular economy, but we have to look for the design of a product, for the manufacturing, for the repair, and to prevent the use of resources. But also in the principles that we see in circular economy is to regenerate nature. And here, from where I'm extracting materials for my operation, how am I going to regenerate nature? As part of what has been done in Querétaro, we have seen business groups from space, from automotive, from different investments like Italian companies, Japanese companies, and PYMEs. The majority of the work in PYMEs. PYMEs is the small businesses, and these are the numbers that generate employment. How can we do that? PYMEs apply circular economy, and we also see the topic of Querétaro has as a policy decarbonization. Several companies that belong to European or Asian companies, they have the policies of decarbonization, how to eliminate the carbon footprint. So we have started applying a circular economy in order to eliminate the carbon footprint. And the Querétaro, and we have taxes. We have taxes for emissions, for greenhouse emissions, but also how to comply with the carbon footprint in their operations, how to eliminate them. And we started working with different business groups and how to apply these tools. If I use fossil fuels in my operation, how can I first apply an efficient use in applying energy and applying fuels. In the second step, renewable energies. Mexico is characterized for having a high potential of the use of the solar energy, and we have migrated to the photovoltaic sources. And when we have the accomplishments from 2021 to 2025, 279 companies have taken this training. This consists in training with the constructive model. We give the tools of the circular economy, but the experts of the operations of the companies and up to very large companies are the participants. They get homework, exercises, and they have to apply in their operations to review in the different areas and to create work teams. We know that in a large company, they can have a sustainability area and a continuous improvement team. And now we teach them how to accomplish those improvements, to reduce scrap, to improve the design of a product, to reduce all the environmental impact that their operation has, to quantify it, and also to have different benefits. We have 58 institutions or academia, private as well as public as well as private, and we see that it is important to create capacities in the education institutions so that the professionals can have this change of mind to apply a circular economy, to have this discipline from business administration, so that they can see how circular economy can improve a business. We have trained more than 680 persons. We have 371 initiatives. The commitment that is made when you apply circular economy, they develop a project. We want projects that are feasible, technical, and environmental. And this is a project that is excellent environmentally, but it has better returns. If it doesn't have a good return for 6 years, then we don't consider it feasible. This is the commitment for participating. We have developed 40 mechanisms where these education institutions, representatives from the three levels of government, authorities from the environmental agencies, social development, start applying some tools that develop circular economy. There's a lot for circular economy in Mexico, but it hasn't been approved. We have to see what are the tools that we can develop in order to strengthen circular economy. Within the methodology, we estimate the investments, but also the savings that we can have. And these are projects that can show that they can have very good profits to recover those investments. And there are projects that do not require investment. They're good practices or they link to different sectors. Within the measurements that we have is how many tons, and we see materials and waste that are being recovered or are being prevented within 300,000 tons, and they are taken to a these were taken to a final disposal site, and they were not taken advantage of. For example, water, how to recirculate water in our operations, and we currently have projects where we're capturing rainwater for the automotive sector. Companies are starting to visualize how within this environment they can look for alternatives to reduce the impact on the environment. With regards to energy, we started with the energy efficiency before passing to renewable energies. We just finished a training with a group of businesswomen where they had a facility. It was a warehouse, and they wanted to change to panels. So we asked the characteristics of the lighting system. They were 20 years old or more. We had to start and we had to teach them how to first be more efficient with the resources that we need, and then start migrating little by little to the alternatives with renewable energy. Several of these initiatives have allowed us to estimate the carbon footprint, 890,000 tons that can be prevented from being generated. Querétaro is within the commitments of the Paris Agreement. And like I mentioned, we also have environmental taxes. And other elements that we have seen is that circular economy allows us to comply with the objectives of sustainable development of the United Nations. And here within the system, we have visualized and we link to these objectives of sustainable development. And for example, end poverty. We have found projects where the materials from a company can be a product to manufacture new products, and that generates employment, and we're helping to contribute and reduce this poverty. Very briefly, we are going to see a video of the success stories that we are having. Can you please help me with this?
Por supuesto. Voy a comenzar la transmisión
I'm
del
going
video.
to start the video.
Estamos en Eaton Auto Mexicana.
We are
donde
in
nuestro
Eaton
principal factor
Mexican
es la seguridad,
Auto,
fabricando
where
bolsas de
our
aire,
first
así como el cuidado del medio
factor
ambiente.
is
Este
to
es un
have
proyecto
the
que se ha venido desarrollando
safety
con
airbags.
alianzas
This
del
is a
municipio de
project that
Jalpa
has
de
been
Serra,
developed
donde
in
hemos podido aprovechar
Jalpa de Serra, where
materiales
we
que
can recover
anteriormente
materials that
llegaban a un
previously
relleno sanitario.
were going
Y
to a
ahora, en la
landfill.
actualidad,
And now,
estamos generando,
currently, we are
además
generating,
de aprovechamiento de
besides
materiales,
recovering
generando más de
materials, we're
50
generating
empleos en el
more than
municipio de
50
Jalpa de Serra.
employments in
Nosotros
the
clasificamos
municipality of
nuestras
Jalpa de
materias y las
Serra.
pasamos a
We
diferentes
classify
procesos,
our materials and we
donde
send it to different
fabricamos lo que
processes
es las
where
bolsas de
we
aire,
manufacture
inyección de
the
plásticos,
airbags,
pintura
the
y demás.
injection of plastics,
Con este
paint,
proyecto hemos
and
podido
with this
aprovechar
project, we
hilo,
have been able
poliuretano,
to recover
vinil,
um,
entre otros
thread,
materiales. Estos
vinyl,
son los residuos que salen de
polyethylene,
diferentes
and these are
procesos de
wastes
nuestra
that are from
organización,
different
las
processes
cuales
in
hemos
our
buscado la
organization.
manera más
And we
efectiva de
have looked for the
aprovecharlos,
effective way of
realizando y
recovering them
elaborando nuevas
by
artesanías,
creating new
flores,
crafts
lapiceros,
like
tinteras, entre
flowers,
otros artículos.
pencils, bags. We have been able to create and develop a catalog which can be acquired through our social media. And in order to acquire arts and crafts from the people in our community. And thanks to the state of Querétaro and the circular economy that opened the doors and gave us a training so that we could start promoting projects for circular economy.
Ok, muchas gracias por compartir el video. Y
Thank you
queríamos
very much
presentar
for
este
sharing
video
the
porque
video.
es
And
justo esta empresa, sus
this
materiales,
company,
antes
these
denominados
materials,
residuos, ahora con la
before they
iniciativa
were
de Nuevos
called
Amigos que se ha
waste, and now
publicado, vemos
we can
que ya
see
no denominamos
that
residuos,
we
sino
don't
sus
call them
materiales
waste.
están
They
generando
are
empleos
materials.
a un grupo
They have
minoritario
generated
en el
employment to
estado
a
al
group of
interior de Querétaro
craftsmen
y
in
se
Querétaro.
conjugan, hace
And
rato nos mencionaban
they
la
mentioned a little while
creatividad
ago,
y estamos viendo en los diferentes
and we
sectores
see
y
in the
ahorita
different
vinculamos.
sectors,
Esta
and
es una
we are
empresa del
linking.
sector
This is a
automotriz,
company of
pero
the
en el tema de
automotive
sustentabilidad
sector, but
también vemos
in
ya todos
circular
los sectores
economy, we
económicos de
see all the
Querétaro.
economic
Vemos que la
sectors of
economía
Querétaro,
circular
and we
se
see
puede
that
aplicar
circular
desde el
economy
sector
can be
primario, en la
applied
agricultura, en la
in
ganadería,
agriculture,
en el
the
sector
primary
secundario, en
sector,
las industrias
in secondary
manufactureras,
sector,
de
in
todos los giros
manufacturing
y también en
of
el sector
every type,
terciario, ¿no? Cómo
in
nuestras
the
actividades
third
hacemos un uso
sector,
eficiente
how
de todos los
our
recursos que usamos en
if
nuestra
we
vida
make
diaria.
a
Muchas
effective use of
gracias.
all the
Paso la
materials that we have. Thank you very much. And I'm at your service.
Muchas gracias, Marisol.
Thank you very much, Marisol. Very interesting. Sometimes circular economy seems like a concept that we do not understand very well. And set examples like this one allows us to understand better how can we see circular economy in the real life and the importance of moving different groups to the private sector and also to educational institutions. We have many people today that are students and also public administration, and you mentioned the need of having this collaboration, of also having rules, regulations that will allow us to implement circular economy. And it is very important what you mentioned, how circular economy allows us to have economic benefits and also social benefits. And you presented very well and how we can accomplish corporate goals, social participation. You already gave us many of the benefits and the opportunities that we have in circular economy for the organizations, but I would like to welcome Bethany.
Welcome. I was saying that Marisol already shared different benefits and opportunities that the circular economy offers to different organizations. So she already gave us some details, but now I would like to give the floor to you so you can talk to us a little bit more about what the circular economy offers to organizations.
Sure, happy to, Samantha. Did you want to share my presentation or would you like me to share my screen?
You can share your screen.
Okay.
So you can control the slides.
Sure.
Thank you.
Excellent. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, right now we see it like not in like the presentation mode. So maybe if you can just like click on full screen so we can see it.
Oh, no.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Oops. Okay. So, hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Bethany Edwards, and I'm here representing the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, where I lead work within the circular products and materials pathway. So for those who are not familiar, WBCSD is an international not-for-profit member-led organization that's headquartered in Geneva with offices globally. It convenes leading businesses to drive system transformation for a better world. Today, I'll talk a little bit about circular methodologies and frameworks that WBCSD has developed, why the circular economy and its value, and present a brief case study, and then wrap with some circular business models and localized examples. So at WBCSD, we see the circular economy as a critical economic unlock, a $4.5 trillion opportunity in the next 5 years. And as Joanne mentioned earlier, this translates to a $25 trillion opportunity by 2050. And it is an economic opportunity that stimulates innovation, job creation, while simultaneously creating more sustainable outcomes. So a key component of unlocking the circular economy is the importance of measurements and metrics for circularity. So in order to truly operationalize a circular economy, investment flows and system changes have to happen. And without a methodology to track, disclose, and measure circular performance, it's incredibly difficult to engage the capital markets. So WBCSD developed the Circular Transition Indicators, or CTI, in collaboration with over 50 companies, and it has become a globally recognized framework. The next iteration of this work has been the creation of the Global Circularity Protocol, which CTI sits within. Today's presentation will be at a higher level, so I'm not going to get into the Global Circularity Protocol, but I think what's important to know is that It seeks to implement the implementation of the Global Circularity Protocol, seeks to cut 76 gigatons of CO2 over the next 25 years and save 120 billion tons of materials. So we'll look a little bit more at CTI. So the Circular Transition Indicator Framework provides a standardized way for companies to measure and manage their circular performance. And at the heart of the CTI framework is the concept of percentage material circularity. And that's built around three key levers. So circular inflow, and this measures the share of a company's inputs that are either renewable or non-virgin, such as recycled materials or bio-based resources. And the more circular inputs you have, the less reliant you are on finite virgin resources. And then two is the recovery potential. So this reflects how well your products are designed for circularity. Are they easy to disassemble, repair, or recycle? These are things that are essential for the capability of a product to be recovered at the end of life. And then the actual recovery. And this looks at what actually happens after the product is used. Are the materials recovered through recycling, remanufacturing, or reuse, or are they lost to landfill and incineration? And so by measuring these dimensions across inflow and outflow, companies can calculate their material circularity score. And this helps identify where the biggest gaps and opportunities are. It's a very pragmatic, data-driven approach that goes beyond intentions and helps companies operationalize circularity across procurement, product design, and end-of-life systems. And so why a circular economy and its value? So we spoke a little bit about some of the economic value, but I'll go into this a little bit more. So a circular economy, it offers a variety of things. And for starters, one of the reasons why it makes a lot of sense is global greenhouse gas emissions which can broadly be split into two categories, kind of two halves. About 55% comes from energy systems like power and buildings and transport and infrastructure. And that's where a lot of the current decarbonization efforts have been focused, things like electrification and renewable energy. But that's, what's often overlooked is that 45% of the remaining GHG emissions come from the production of goods and the management of land. And so this includes emissions related to product use, end of life, agriculture, and land uses. And so the takeaway here is that transitioning to renewable energy is critical, but it only tackles 55% of the problem. And so if we don't tackle some of the work on production of goods and management of land, there's going to be risks, and this puts business value at risk. And continuing to operate as business as usual will result in a variety of business risks, such as supply chain uncertainty, raw material increases, and volatility, and driving higher costs of operations. I like this. This is a recent study that I think illustrates some of the principles very effectively. So we see circular solutions as a way forward. And a recent survey of executives conducted by Bain and the World Economic Forum found strong positive associations with circular solutions. They're expected to enhance financial performance, strengthen competitiveness, and future-proof operations. So 73% of business executives say that they're expecting positive impact in the next 3 years as it relates to revenue. They expect 65% of positive impact related to resilience, 56% in anticipated cost benefits, and 65% in expected reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. So I think some of these stats are particularly powerful. This is a recent study as of April of this year. And so a key area in revenues and cost savings is waste valorization and the reframing of waste streams as opportunity streams and new sources of revenue. So as we move through the product and material process from sourcing to reverse logistics, we can see opportunities to create value in kind of 4 sort of key areas. And that includes introducing renewable energy, It also includes increased sharing, co-owning, co-use, and resource pooling. Implementing life cycle services for resell, maintain, repair, and remanufacture, and then also increasing recycling, upcycling, and component harvesting. And then speaking a little bit more about this, we see that a core shift has to occur to transition to a circular economy. And this involves moving beyond just a traditional value chain that's focused on into a much broader thinking of value chain and how each piece interacts with one another. It requires leadership teams to rethink core business processes, product design, sourcing and sales models, and customer relationships. So historically, 80 to 90% of business activities and strategic investment is typically concentrated in the middle of the value chain. So areas like material processing, production, and sales. However, the circular economy growth opportunities lie both upstream and downstream, and those are often areas that are undermanaged today, which involve rethinking how we source materials and designing for durability, reuse, recyclability. And then I think one of the big things this slide also just illustrates is that the circular transformation, it's not just about reducing waste, but it's also about reimagining where, how, and why value is created, and all of the unique interlocking connections between across the value chain, between extraction, production, collection, disposal, and how you can creatively start to rethink and interlink and strategically manage much broader up and downstream on the value chain. And to illustrate these concepts in a little bit more of a practical application, I'm just going to quickly walk through a specific case study example using this CTI framework. And this was used as material tracking and decision making for one of WBCSD's member companies, VF Corp. So looking at this a little bit in more detail, CTI encompasses kind of 4 key buckets of performance indicators. So closing the loop, optimizing the loop, valuing the loop, and then the impact of the loop. When you start to look at each of these things, you can perform some calculations and get some really good insight on the impact of recycled materials and the impact on GHG. And so very practical here application. So VF Corp selected a jacket. So you can use CTI to look at the entire company and its operations, or you can also use CTI to just look at a specific product. And so VF Corp selected a jacket to explore. And when they went through and modeled the impact of increasing their recycled content in their initial material inputs, they found that GHG emissions were reduced by 21% if they increased their recycled polyester content to 50%. And then moving even further, if they were able to increase their recycled polyester in the front end, what they're putting into the jacket, if they're able to increase it to 100% recycled polyester, they were able to see a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 86%. And so one of the big summary points here is that with circularity, you have the ability to simultaneously accomplish goals of reducing virgin material, but also hitting on goals of carbon emissions reductions. And so there's been several studies that have looked at this in addition to the example that I presented with VF Corp, where you can calculate the impact of using recycled cardboard, for example, or recycled plastics in the front end, to significant savings of CO2 emission reductions by 40-70%. And in some cases, if remanufacturing is being brought into the equation, it could be as high as 80 to 90%. And so to just wrap things up here, I'm going to present a couple circular business models and some examples. So if we're looking at some key circular business model strategies, 3 of them are presented here, and that is product as a service, extending product lifespans, and design for recyclability. So in product as a service, this is more of a renting model, and the producer of the good maintains the ownership throughout the life cycle, and so they're able to service it throughout. It's well suited for products with embedded value. One of my examples that I like a lot is a small startup company called Tulu, which has rentable appliances in apartment buildings. So, a lot of times power tools are not being used very often, or other kind of appliances. And so being able to put these into apartment buildings, you don't have to buy a vacuum. You can rent one when you need it. So that's sort of an example of a product as a service. Philips has done some really interesting stuff with MRIs and using those as product as a service and maintaining the ownership of them. On extending product lifespans. So this is about designing for longevity, repair and refurbishment. And so high value durable goods industries are good for this. REI has a great REI co-op program, which allows for the repurchasing of used outdoor goods. Nespresso has recently launched Relove, which is refurbished coffee machines, and Cisco has a rugged router that's very modular in design so that it can easily be replaced and upgraded. And then on design for recyclability, I think the important, one of the big ones to recognize here is the way that you can design differently and the power of circular feedstocks. So we see an example there of Meadow, which is a startup that has turned the aluminum beverage can into a versatile prefill. Even, Heinz choosing to use a mono material improves recyclability and reduces components. So those are a couple examples there. And then quickly, I'll just present a couple localized solutions here. So to close, here are some specific considerations and local examples. So one practical action that you can take in your circular economy journey would be to perform a waste audit of your business and map your material flows. So for example, what happens when your company uses certain protective clothing or tools or wooden pallets? How can you use those items smarter and longer? Another key strategy is to consider material exchanges and marketplaces. So one industry's or business's waste could be another business's feedstock. So a great example is NetPlus, which is a company that collects used fishing nets and then turns them into new textiles. In this idea of facilitating partnership across industries and across value chains has a lot of power. Thinking about creation of systems and how convenience and location proximity play a critical role in consumer behavior and execution, I think, is important. So for instance, reusables can work really well if they are in closed environments like stadiums or universities. So Reuse Seattle's initiative has kept over 1 million single-use cups, bowls, and plates out of landfills. Reuse Seattle, you can go on there. It has a database. You can find places to purchase and connect with reusable cups and silverware. Colorado is another really good example. So Washington and Colorado both have programs called Next Cycle, which has programs and cohorts and initiatives around a couple different things. Colorado has another really good program around circular community initiatives. And so they did an audit of all of their waste and identified that construction and demolition waste makes up about 30% of the materials going to landfill in Colorado. And so they've put in place new programs to help sort and set up recycling centers for end market uses of those materials, as well as several other things that they've identified. And then I think the other thing to consider is B2B contractual opportunities. So what can you do with your own vendors and suppliers? Can you suggest things as purchasing with reduced packaging options or purchasing in backable containers? What are the things that you can kind of contractually put into some of your B2B business relationships. And I will wrap it there because I know it's getting a little close on time. So I appreciate everybody's time and attention.
Thank you very much, Bethany, for wrapping up and for explaining in more details all the benefits that we can expect from circular economy, enhance financial performance and strengthen competitiveness, and also getting ready for the future and being able to increase our profits. The questions have been arriving, so we have many questions. I would like to take the three panelists and move to the questions and answers session. Before we do that, I want to present the results of the second poll to see our word cloud. If you remember, we asked you which did you consider to be the biggest opportunity for your sector to apply circular economy principles. So we can see on the screen, we're talking a lot about reducing waste, education, policy, recovering, security, standardization, water, government procurement, success stories. I'm trying to identify. Oh, it's changing. It's still changing. The supply chain, rentability, profitability. I'm going to say a few ones in Spanish. Vemos áreas verdes,
We see
sustentabilidad,
green areas,
ahorro,
sustainability, savings,
comunidades locales,
local communities,
recuperación, capacitación,
recovery,
las
training,
maquilas,
maquilas,
y
maquila
también
factories.
vemos algunos en, pardon, il y a quelques-uns aussi en français. Alors, la réduction des coûts, la
We're
sécurité,
going now to the ones French. We have
la rentabilité et la
security,
réutilisation des matériaux.
profitability,
Thank you to all of
and
you for
material
participating.
reuse.
To start with the question and answer section, I would like to finish this poll and move into the next one. Alors, pour ouvrir la séance de questions et réponses, je vous invite à répondre à notre troisième sondage et à écrire votre question dans la section pour les questions.
We will now go
Alors, la
to the
question
next
pour le
section.
sondage,
Actually, before going into our Q&A,
est-ce que je l'ai en
we
français?
will look at
Qu'est-ce
a
que vous
third
savez
survey,
à
which
des
is in
pratiques d'économie
French.
circulaire? Nous allons laisser cette question ouverte
And the
jusqu'à la
question
fin
is, what would help
de
you
la période
take
de
the
questions.
next step in adopting circular
Prenez
economy
votre temps de
practices? We will
répondre
leave this
et
till the
n'hésitez
end,
pas à nous
so
envoyer
please
une
take your
liste de
time
questions. Je ne sais
to
pas si nous aurons
answer.
le temps de répondre à
And
toutes les questions,
please feel free to
mais
send in
nous allons
any
commencer
other
maintenant. Comme
questions.
ça, on a
We
plus
will
de
make
temps
sure to
pour
answer, and we will
poser les
now
questions
begin with our Q&A so we can have
notre présentatrice.
more time
So,
to
the
ask
first
these
question,
questions to our
I think
panelists.
it's one that you could help us answer, the three of you together, because our participants are, the question says, what is the future of circularity in the current trinational political environment? So maybe if you can give us some details of how do you think circularity in the future in your country, and that we can help us build this trinational perspective. So I don't know who wants to start, but please just open your microphone and share with us.
I'm happy to start, Samantha, if that's helpful. Just top of mind thinking from a very complicated and broad and deep question. You know, I really think that that the political uncertainty in these geopolitical times really allows us to double down on circularity because it is about building resilience and new partnerships. And so, I think that maybe that might make us in a Canadian context focus a little more domestically, and really thinking about how we innovate between us in our public and private sector, and really thinking about, at a community level. We're noticing that circular economy is being brought to life by the municipalities, by local governments, and where they have some autonomy. They still have rulemaking and policy powers, but there's a lot of great sharing between provinces, between municipalities, within provinces, in terms of how to activate circularity at a community level. And I can see between our three countries, city to city, community by community, where that exchange of information and ideas could really come to life despite what's happening, at more of a national.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm not sure if you had finished because the audio was not working very well, but have you finished your intervention? Okay, thank you. Marisol, Bethany, would you like to add something? Marisol?
Gracias, Samantha. Comentaba que en México.
Thank you, Samantha. I mentioned before that Mexico has an initiative for a circular economy framework. In the state of Querétaro, we started in 2021 without having that regulatory framework that forced companies to apply the tools of circular economy. However, we have managed to prove that from the smallest company to a major company, applying these tools actually helps them reduce costs because they're reducing inputs and materials, and it helps create this industrial synergies between different sectors and with society, because this helps them meet their corporate policies, the policy that is just now being defined in Mexico that will be binding for the application of a circular economy. And we also heard from Bethany how this helps companies reduce emissions of greenhouse gases. These are commitments that are necessary because we are now experiencing the effects of climate change. And these tools help us bring together different sectors, from agriculture and livestock to manufacture to products and services. So we hope that very soon we will see this applied throughout the country. There are several initiatives around, and this exchange is very important. And how can we do this amongst regions in North America to strengthen our capacity? Thank you, Marisol.
If you would like to add something.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that it really starts to, bring about more intelligent, localized supply chains, and this idea of resources being kept in local loops. And the changes in some of the policies or economics or dynamics essentially may make export options less appealing, and that may flip some of the economies or change some of the existing traditional frictions that are in place or the old ways of doing things. I think that there's the possibility that this forces people to rethink. I know that in Seattle, whenever there was changes, when China stopped accepting certain amounts of waste, it forced Seattle to rethink their recycling program. And it actually resulted in the city of Seattle now being involved in profit sharing with some of their local recyclers. So I think that it just brings about different business models and economies where certain things may become more appealing than they used to in the past as a result.
Thank you. Thank you to the three of you for giving us the different perspectives that help us bring them together and have a trinational view. I think the three of you mentioned the local dimension. And that is linked to a couple of questions that we receive. And I'm just like trying to be mindful of the time. And for that, I'm going to try to group those questions in a single one. But there are many questions about the potential implementation of circular economy in rural areas or in local communities, maybe not that well connected to cities, and how this can help these communities to change the economic model, but also obviously mitigate environmental degradation and also increase their the quality of their living, right? So I know it's a big question and it contains different aspects, but if you could think about how that could be implemented in the different contexts you work on, I think that will be the question we finalize with, because we don't have a lot of time. Sorry for not being able to reply to all your questions. We will provide information about how to contact us for the questions. So I see Joanne. Would you like to I think your microphone is open.
Is my audio a bit better?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Stop me. Okay, that's good. What comes to mind when we think about local activation is really tapping in some of these interesting new business models that really facilitate local partnerships. And I think about repair, remanufacturing, sharing. Those business models require and only sort of make sense economically to have local businesses actually support those activities. And in fact, we're seeing a surge of the businesses that are there for repairing products, for hosting and sharing, like libraries. They're small and boutique at the moment, but I think we're seeing this surge in that business idea, and really those can only get activated on a local level. So there's great promise in some of the more innovative business models that we're seeing starting to emerge. And it does necessitate a local level. I think on the flip side, consumer demand, consumers are interested in thinking about buying local, supporting local businesses. And I think there's a new appetite out there for consumers to really think through who they're supporting, what they're supporting, how they're consuming in the bigger really market context. So you're getting demand and supply that are really lending themselves to local expansions.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne, for bringing up that point too, because I think indeed customers are asking for more information about where the products come from. And I think that's a great opportunity also for circular organizations to put that up front, so customers feel more attracted for the products and services. Thank you. Marisol, Bethany, if you would like to participate, please don't hesitate.
Sí. Creo que es importante
I believe that it is important
en las comunidades rescatar algunas
in the
tradiciones,
communities
porque
to
esas costumbres
continue with
promueven la
traditions,
gestión de
because
los
those
recursos y hacer
traditions promote
sinergia
the use of
con empresas
resources
y
and
el día
make
que vimos
synergies
una gran empresa
with
que
the
genera buen
companies.
material
And
buscó
the video that we saw
artesanos
is a great
de
company
esas
that
comunidades
is
pequeñas,
creating
pero que con sus
synergies in small
habilidades y su
communities,
creatividad
but with the
desarrollan nuevos
creativity,
productos.
they are
Entonces es
developing new
empezar a
products
rescatar las
to start
tradiciones
rescuing
de las
the
personas
traditions
y
of the
crear también
people.
capacidades,
And it
enseñarles a
creates
ver cómo
capacities
pueden
and
fortalecer
start teaching
actividades
them how they can
económicas que
strengthen
puedan apoyar la
economic
economía
activities that can
circular en la
support
región,
circular
creando
economy in the
sinergias
region,
y
and
vinculando
by
por la cuestión
creating
de la
synergies
responsabilidad social.
and linking it
Entonces es
to
algo que
social
se puede
responsibility.
visualizar
So this is
en
something that
pequeñas
can be
actividades,
visualized in
enseñarles
small
a ser
activities and
empresarias
to teach
incluso,
them
¿no? Algunas
to be
regiones así se ven.
businesswomen, and it would be great. Great.
Muchas gracias, Marisol. La verdad es que son temas
Thank
que
you,
son
Marisol.
muy
These are
importantes
topics
y
that
que
are very
empezamos a darnos
important,
cuenta que es
and we start
necesario
seeing
también
that it is
trabajar
necessary
a
to
diferentes
also
niveles
work at
y a
different
veces
levels.
pensamos
And
que las
sometimes we
cuestiones
think that
ambientales
environmental
están
issues
alejadas de las
are
cuestiones
far
sociales
away
y en
from
temas
social
justamente como
issues.
las
And in topics
empresas
like
que
companies
son propiedad de
that
mujeres,
are
nos
the
damos cuenta
property
cómo
of
hay
women, we notice
dimensiones
that there
que se
are
conectan
dimensions
justamente
that are
también
connected,
en las
and
comunidades
in
rurales,
the
donde a
rural
veces hay
communities,
pueblos
there
indígenas,
are
pueblos
indigenous
originarios
communities,
también, la
there are
necesidad de
indigenous
ver
communities, and there's a
la
need
perspectiva
of
de
looking at
comercio de
the
los pueblos originarios.
perspective
Muchas
of
gracias.
the trade in
And
indigenous
Bethany?
communities. Bethany?
Yeah. A couple thoughts here. I think one important thing to just recognize is that those in the rural community are closer to nature, and nature is a circular master, right? I mean, it is not wasting anything by design. And so I think that living in those environments is inspirational. And you can take that understanding and that knowledge and kind of really recognize the opportunities maybe in the bioeconomy, or ingenuity to really reuse things and, design systems that are not wasteful. So I think that's one important thing to just be aware of, is that those communities have a unique appreciation and interest and connection to nature and the land, that they can come up with unique, smart thinking and creative systems. I think the other thing is probably around system creations, so that there's maybe more hub and spoke models. And so part of the challenges in some of the more rural communities is just the connection, the access points, collection challenges with transportation, right? So in Colorado, that's one of the initiatives that they have started, is a circular transport network. So they've recognized that there are collection challenges because there are less garbage trucks that are able to facilitate those pickups. And so, structuring things in a way that allows for a little bit more hub and spoke kind of systems and hubs to allow for broader collection, I think, is probably the other important kind of system to try to build into some of these, more disparate communities.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. I had the opportunity to participate in international discussions about circular economy, and I remember many representatives from African countries were saying like circular economy, it's natural for us, right? In communities where you don't have access to many resources, nothing is wasted. Everything is going to be reused in a way of another one. So they did mention how the need is more to have tools, right, to adopt this and to make it official, to commercialize the products. But I do think there's a lot of knowledge in the communities, and nature is an inspiration, and circularity is already happening. It's just that we maybe don't identify it as such, but it's already happening, and with a little bit of momentum, we're gonna get there. So thank you so much to all of you. I don't want to take a lot more of time, so just a couple of minutes more for our participants. I want just like to ask one last question to our speakers today, and I'm gonna let you reflect on this while I present the results of the third poll. But just if you, like, in 30 seconds, you could tell individuals and organizations who are ready to give the next step but don't know what to do, which will be your advice. Y así llegamos al final de este webinario.
This is the way we reach our final webinar. We're giving some time to our panelists so that they can think about this last question. Meanwhile, I would like to check with you the results of this last survey. which is asking what would help you to take the next step in adopting circular economy practices. And in the majority of the answers are all of the above. We have identified good issues. We have the policies, the clear incentives of the government, success stories, and cautionary tales, and to access to financing and funding, which is important for every project or initiative, peer collaboration and knowledge exchange, and collaboration, and we already saw in the different presentations. Thank you very much. Also, as final comments, I would like to invite you, don't forget that we have the next council meeting and the public forum of the Joint Public Advisory Committee that will take place in Mexico City on July 24th and 25th. You can register. The participation in line is still open. You can have in the chat. You're going to start receiving information through the chat, and you can register to participate.
Check our website and join our newsletter to know more about our upcoming events. As we mentioned, this is only the first webinar of a series of webinars targeting the private sector and providing information that it's important for you. So please check our website just to get to know what's coming up. And we also want to invite you to reply to a very short survey. You have the QR code on the screen, so please share it and share your feedback with us. And just to officially finalize, I turn to our panelists to share that final advice that you will give to individuals and organizations ready to give the next step. Marisol, ¿te gustaría empezar?
Marisol, would you like to start? Yes, thank you. I believe that in order to start the organizations that do not know circular economy, to start first making a diagnosis of their operations, to measure everything that they have as in and out, because many times there's a lack of knowledge of what I'm buying, and sometimes these are only good practices to improve your operation. And if I need support, to look for alliances. We have more organizations, and even though you are not implementing a program, a circular economy, there are many tools that we can use and create these alliances with different sectors. I need help and see how I can improve. And we are at your service for circular economy. Thank you very much, Marisol. And Marisol shared her contact information, and you have an invitation to get in touch with her. Thank you very much.
Would you like to go next? Bethany, Joanne?
Or I can go. I very much echo what was just said. The idea of performing kind of a waste audit assessment and material flow mapping, I think, is a great place to start. It's really hard to improve your circularity if you don't know what your baseline is. And so I think being able to run through everything that you're purchasing, understanding, where it's coming from, a little bit more of a detailed look at supplier audits, and asking, directly asking some of your suppliers, how much recycled content is in maybe the cardboard or the packaging that they're supplying you with. Getting the detailed information from your suppliers and vendors is also really important in you being able to, as a company or as a product, be able to make informed decisions or substitutes to other alternatives that might increase, your overall circularity or reduce your waste. So waste audit and assessments, I think, are one of the great places to start.
Thank you, Bethany. And that goes with an invitation also to have a look at the website of the World Business Center for Sustainable Development, where you can find many tools and information to take that next step. So thank you very much. I think Joanne had a problem, like there was a problem with her connection, and I don't see her connected anymore. So I'm just gonna double check. No, I think Joanne is not longer connected. So I would just like to thank you. Thank you to our panelists so much for your presentations today. Thank you also to my colleagues at the CEC Secretariat for your help. And of course, thank you especially to you, the participants, for joining us today. We will publish the presentations and you will find also the recording of this webinar available on our website. Please check our website for more news and see you the next time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.